Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and two things, this vlog will be a bit shorter as I do plan to end it on Friday instead of Saturday. Next week will be quite busy and I will need Saturday to kind of start to finish up bits and pieces, and as well Sunday when I usually edit I might have to do some stuff right, so yeah, I'm just gonna edit Friday just to save myself a headache. So yeah, and also this week I'm looking forward to, because today is Sunday the 10th of August, and on Tuesday will be my 26th birthday. I don't have any plans or anything, but it's always exciting to celebrate another year of being alive and whatnot. And so far today I've done some cleaning and whatnot, and let me just move my landscape, which I have attached to my camera so I can hold my camera more comfortably. But yeah, and I also did quite a bit of reading. If you watched the end of my previous vlog, which I have also edited and the thumbnail for, you would have seen that I started Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, and I finished it, that video, on page 52. I did do some more reading last night after I finished that vlog, and also quite a bit of reading today. For me on page 152, and I do have to say I'm liking this book. I'm liking the viewpoints again, but I do have to say, with Peter's point of view, the way it's being written, I don't know, it's just gone over my head a bit. And I'm just like, what on earth are you talking about? Like, it's the Morpheus intervening and dealing with his own life and what he's doing with life, and if he's happy with life, and why he's doing what he's doing and whatnot. And we see Margaret, who is the love interest to Avon, who is the younger brother, who she sees what happened as a turning point in her life, and where she'll accept certain things and understand she can do that. And it seems like she does regret the encounter she had with Avon, and she worries about her reputation and if he'll brag about it to his friends. I mean, he is 22, so that's something young people would do. And then we jump to Peter, who seems unhappy with his life. Like, he is miserable and tired and lonely, and it seems like he's doing all of it for his brother, who he rarely speaks to, and when he does, it doesn't seem like he knows how to speak with him or what about. And right now they're both currently are dealing with their mother, who wants someone to deal with the dog. The dog does belong to Avon technically, but because of his living situation, he's living in a place that doesn't allow dogs to be there. The dog has to be with their mother, or he'll have to find a temporary shelter for the dog. And with Peter, his friend Sevilla, she's dealing with, it's not mentioned what exactly is wrong with her. She has this sort of illness, I guess. I don't really know what it is, where she's in and out of the hospital, and he's always there for her. Like, the nurses and doctors, like, he has a bit of a routine with them when they're like, "Oh, are you the husband?" He says no, and it's a bunch of back and forth, and whatnot. Is quite like a routine for him, and we see how he's taking care of her and being there for her when she's in a hospital while she's getting treatment done, and when she gets another surgery, he takes her home and he takes care of her then. And we learn that this illness of hers, or whatever it is, I don't even know what it is, it prevents her from being able to be sexually involved with people, as she isn't able to do it without it causing her an immense amount of pain. And it seems like she and Peter, they do desire one another, but because of this, and because she can give him what she thinks she should, it upsets her, and then he feels guilty for upsetting her. And there's that, and also he has to deal with the girl who he has seen, Naomi, who got arrested when she and her friends were being evicted, and it seems to him he should have left her there, and he should have found someone else to mess around with, because it wasn't supposed to be serious or something casual. But then he realizes he cares for her and wants to protect her and her innocence, because she's extremely young, and he's seen the curveball she's been thrown at in life, with her mother who's an alcoholic, her father who's not around, with her not having a job, being able to finish school. I mean, there are some aspects of her life that she has control over, like the one to find a job, the one to finish school, the one to be in a better living situation than she is, but she's very much carefree and still extremely young, and I do find it a bit interesting that both Peter and Avon, they're involved with Peter, who are the other person's age, because I believe Naomi, she's closer to Avon's age, and with Margaret, she's also in her 30s, like Peter, so I don't know, that was something I found interesting, and we continue seeing Margaret. She's thinking about Avon when he's gone back to Dublin, and it seems like she doesn't have anyone in her life who she can talk about Avon with and what happened without judgment, without people turning their noses at her thinking, why did you do that? And it seems like she does have an ex-husband who knows that they're over, knows and understands they're over, but and accepts that they're over, but also at the same time cannot accept that they're over. So yeah, and it seems like her mother's not most accepting as well. It seems like both of them, both Avon and Margaret, they're dealing with their mother's not being the most accepting, because with Avon, his mother isn't happy with either of them or something. It seems like she's more happy with Peter and the fact he has a good, decent job, a good career, but Ivan has said that they're both of dominating personalities who both refuse to stand down, and he does have less dominating personality. She's not happy with him, with the fact he doesn't have a proper job yet. She keeps bringing it up in times where it's really not okay to bring it up. Like, she even brought it up at the father's funeral, which, yeah. But also she likes her stepchildren more than him, and she doesn't like the dog, and so we see how he needs to find a new apartment or a new living situation where the dog will be allowed. And speaking of Avon, we see from his perspective him feeling like, we're told he feels like an outsider in life, watching and observing people in structures he doesn't understand and isn't really able to enter. And we see when prior to Margaret, he was in a few relationships where he did not have the best experience in certain ways, and that's why I didn't understand when people were definitely into him or trying to flirt with him. But it seems like with Margaret, he is able to understand, or he definitely did say that he had a better experience with Margaret and with anyone else in this role. He did look up like how to do things properly, and he was just led to sites that were just trying to sell him certain projects. However, when he was in Mum, when he did that instinct take over, and yeah, I just like seeing how they might both have their own, I guess, insecurities, with her worried about what people will think because of the age difference, and him thinking he's not good enough because he doesn't really understand people. Like they're able to really just without words or without anything just feel comforted by each other. Like he knows she feels comforted by him, and to him it doesn't really matter because he is a man, she's a woman, and they want to be good together. So I did like that, and we do get some more philosophy on his end because he goes back to the town where she lives, and she picks him up, takes him to the cottage she's renting, and he tells her, well, he might not have a proper job. He just do freelance work for this tech company where he makes graphs based on data from their sites, and he wonders what is the point because he also previously had this job as a delivery guy, and he was paid because people bought food from restaurants or whatever, and they want to leave their homes to pick it up. And he does understand that some people are not able to pick up their food or not able to leave the house, but that's not really the point. It's just for him, he doesn't understand like what people are being paid for. Like he uses this example of teachers. They're paid to teach children to read, but shouldn't that be the parents' job? It seems he's wondering. In his eyes, he thinks profit is from an inefficiency in the needs and wants of people, and how people, they don't have their basic rights, and there are those who have the money to allow people to have the basic rights they need, but instead of using that money to pay some guy to make a graph. So yeah, there is that, and yeah, so far I'm definitely enjoying it. Definitely getting Avon's perspective just because it feels more straightforward, because I swear with Peter, it just sometimes goes over my head the way it's talked and written, so yeah. And I do definitely like the relationship between Avon and Margaret, how they feel comforted by each other, how they desire one another, and how they might have these insecurities that in a way preventing them from being together, but when they are together, I don't know, I just like it. I don't know, I don't really know a better term or a better phrase for it. I just do. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go to the beach today as it was quite warm. I didn't swim just because it was quite windy and I didn't think the water was that hot, so yeah. And I did do quite a bit of reading today, and I'm on page 220 of Intermezzo, and I am definitely enjoying seeing the, I guess, messiness of the brothers' relationship, how it doesn't seem like they know how to communicate with one another or talk to one another properly. And we do learn some ideas Avon had previously, how he used to never give up his seat for pregnant women because he didn't see the point. Yes. And it got to a point where he would get into fights with his brother or for this sort of thing where Peter would say he was being misogynistic. So why should he give up a seat because a woman is having a baby? He thought the global north was already populated, so what made her so special? And it wasn't until he was in college that he thought, you know what, I'm not that tired. If she's tired, I'm just going to be a gentleman and give up my seat. And he started doing that because as well, he liked seeing the gratitude that they would show him by smiling at him and saying thank you. So yeah, that made him feel good about himself. Like Ivan does have quite strong ideas, it seems like, as he says that God is beauty, it's art and ugliness is humanity, and that's what it is. And for Margaret, it's something else, and you see those ideas and whatnot. And we see the scene of the brothers having dinner together, and everything is fine and dandy. They're not talking that much until Avon brings up the fact that Margaret is 36 years old and was previously married, and Peter does bring up the idea that she has lived a life and asks Avon if it is normal for a 36-year-old to hang out with a 22-year-old who is in Avon's situation, in the sense he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have a living situation he's happy with. And this upsets Avon, as he believes his brother is casting judgment on Margaret without meeting her. He doesn't, and he tells Peter he's always hated him, and it seems like he did block his father's number after this dinner, so yikes is all I have to say about that. And it's when he storms out of the restaurant that he realizes he doesn't know much of her past, of her marriage, like what it was like, what the guy was like, why it fell apart, hell, he doesn't even know the guy's name. So when he goes to visit her the next weekend, he asks, and she tells him that it ended because her husband was an alcoholic, and something she can't blame herself to blame for, as everyone has their own story. He says he has changed, and Avon doesn't believe she has her story and he has his. He thinks it is simpler than that, and that her husband was an addict, and that's that. But I like for her it's not that simple, as she thinks maybe she could have done something, or I don't know, for her in a way she feels guilty because she thinks she should have seen something, and she doesn't entirely blame him, as alcoholism is an illness. She doesn't go around talking negatively about him through people in her life do wonder like why she won't take him back. It's just she can't handle those issues and handle that he needs help, and that's just too much for her, which is something I get, because if it's too much, if you're not able to handle it, it's not fair to either of you. It's just gonna make both of you very miserable. So yeah, and we see Avon worried that somehow Margaret is taking advantage of him, as that's something older people who pursue those younger than them do. But that is not the situation. Like, they both enjoy their company and in many ways, and so in Avon, it's just more of his background of people. When he fell from the top, people said, "Oh, it's because of his father's illness." And Avon, he doesn't like. Yeah, the two things correlated. Why, when he was falling from the top from being the best chess player, his father was getting sicker, but in his eyes, he doesn't want to blame his father as, or use that as an excuse, I should say, as that's practically blaming his father when it was none of his fault. Avon just believes it's because he got a bit rusted and he wasn't studying chess or playing it as good as he could have been, not practicing as much as they could. Like, in a way, he believes he was being a bit cocky and thinking he was the best until he was proven there are those who are better than him. So I did like that, and we see how he wants to tell Margaret he loves her, and but Dunson says it would be too fast, and she has said she wanted things not so serious. And when I read the end of part 1, it seemed like he was using Margaret to replace his father in a way, as he and his father, they would hang out together, they would have dinners together and whatnot, they were close, and now he's hanging out with Margaret, having dinner with her, and he and his father used to tell each other they love each other. How it Avon said that was the last thing he ever said to his father, so he wants to have someone else who he can say I love you to, someone to fill that void that his father left. And with Peter, we see how he tells Sylvia of Naomi's situation, and he worries that she thinks Naomi is a replacement for her. And I want to clarify something. Yesterday I said that Sylvia has some sort of illness. It seems like she was in some sort of accident that was quite severe. Oh. And for Peter, that's not the case. And Naomi's not replacing Sylvia and giving him what Sylvia cannot give him. It's, I guess, complicated, and I have no idea. And we see how Sylvia is like, you hypocrite. You basically saying you're a hypocrite when he tells her of his father's thing. In a sense, he is a man in his 30s, dating someone who's 23, someone who's nearly enough, who's nearly the same age as his brother, and Sylvia thinks it's because, so, yeah, finally someone said it and pointed it out, and Peter says that it's different. I'm not 36. Sylvia says, we're almost there. And Sylvia thinks it's because Peter's always been so protective of Avon, and he thinks that Avon doesn't know how to communicate with people because he doesn't know how to communicate with Peter. So, there's that whole complexities, and as well Sylvia has heard from Avon, and it turns out, as I did mention, he did block Peter's number after the whole thing, not allowing Peter to explain himself. So, and we see how he just continues to really hate his life and whatnot, and how there's a scene how he resents those who are upper class and not children of immigrants, how they are handed things that he has had to work hard to earn, and how they just take everything for granted when he was told not to do that. So I do like that message of, well, not message, but that idea of like not to take things for granted and whatnot. So yeah, yeah, I don't know, I'm just going on for this journey. I'm just curious on what else this book will hold through. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see you when I not hot. It's my birthday, and I'm officially 26 years old, and yeah, so far today's has been quite mundane, which I do prefer. I had a dentist appointment this morning, and yeah, the appointment went decent. For some reason, my dentist was quite delayed, and I had to wait an hour, which I did do quite a bit of reading of my book, which I will discuss in a minute. But yeah, I just did some shopping. I was gonna go to this used bookstore that I've shown you a few times called The Next Chapter, but I didn't realize that they would be closed for the summer till the 18th of August, so yeah, that's a pity. And yeah, I also bought my cake, which like, I swear I don't do anything special on my birthdays. No, as noted, as I did go to the dentist and had to do some blood work for my doctor. Nothing serious, just something to check on from months ago. And one thing I always do on my birthday is buy myself a cake. I have such a sweet tooth. So yeah, today was quite nice and quite hot. And yeah, and as I did mention, I did do quite a bit of reading this morning before I left for my apartment, and then during that wait, and I'm on page 318 of Intermezzo, and I'm definitely enjoying it and seeing the complexities of the brothers' relationships. Like, we did get confirmation that Ivan did block his brother's number, so. And we see the complexities in their own lives, in their own relationships. We see Peter, who seems to be living a double life of sorts, with him hanging out with Sylvia and going back to his apartment and being with Naomi. And Naomi at one point actually says that she doesn't know if he's cheating on Sylvia with her or cheating on her with Sylvia. Like with Sylvia, he's able to have like these deep conversations, and he shows Naomi isn't invested in before going home and taking care of Naomi and giving her what she wants. And we see later on that Sylvia gets sick. It's like a stomach bug or something, but she didn't have Peter about it. Like Peter learned because he was reading outside her office, and a colleague told him she was out sick. And he texts her if she needs anything, and she asks him to pick up a prescription from the pharmacy and to leave it at the door, even though he has a key. It seems like she just didn't want to see him so sick, which he does. He opens the door. And when he opens the door, she's over a bowl throwing up, and he asks how long she's been like that, and she's worried that he'll be angry with her if he knows how long she was sick, that sick. And in the thick of her sickness, she tells him she has regrets about them, and there's a bit of a conversation, and they become, I guess, a bit intimate. Like they're not able to go full on because of whatever is going on with her, but it's on another level, and it's complicated. As Naomi just texts him like when he's making food for Sylvia, and he realizes, or he'll have to make a choice, and he doesn't know which choice. Like, he keeps comparing the two, how he has this history with Sylvia and Naomi's new, and surely Naomi will be able to find someone new, but on the other hand, him and Sylvia have already happened. They have the history, so can they continue on where they left off? And Sylvia, he's able to have deep philosophical conversations, while with Naomi, he's just able to forget about his issues, and he enjoys taking care of Naomi, so it's a bit back and forth in his head, which I'm curious if he does make a decision, it seems like. And with Ivan, we have this text conversation with their mother, and yeah, it doesn't seem like they get along well. It seems like she thinks everything he says is to her is him accusing her of doing something wrong, and he always mentions that she always tries to get information that she can exploit and use against him down the line. And as well, his mother just critiques him all the time, like complaining about his outfits, how he likes to shop secondhand because he thinks it's good for the environment, better than for the environment, which it is. And she wears always new glamorous things, and she made comments about his dress during her father's funeral, which, yeah. And it got to this point of her no longer wanting to deal with the dog and not understanding. It seems that he isn't able to take it due to his living situation, and he goes to their house after his mother's like, we've had enough, this dog, no. And he sees how she and her, I guess, new family, it's just her boyfriend and his children, they treat the dog, and he decides to take the dog, even though the dog isn't allowed in his apartment, so he will have to figure that out. And we see how him and Margaret, they've fallen into this routine, how she has her own complicated relationship with her mother, who sees her as a disappointment compared to her siblings, and she tries to see the good in Peter when everyone is talking about how eager and arrogant his brother is, think he'll do the eulogy at the father's funeral, as he is the oldest, which isn't a thing for the oldest to do the eulogy, and Avon resents that because Peter wasn't as close to their father as Avon was, so it seems that his brother thinks that Avon doesn't have good public speaking skills, or decent accent. It's like, I think the brother Peter actually says in a international chess accent, which is that thing, I don't know, but yeah. And Margaret, she wants to see the positive in Peter, but she's only being shown the negative side of him, and doesn't want that picture she's forming of him to be made up of those only negative parts. She can understand not being enough in someone's eyes, someone who means a lot to them. And with Margaret, we see how she is worried that someone will learn about her and Avon after someone sees him at the bus stop and comments about it to her, and that she might know something. And she's worried about her ex-husband and how he'll react, and she doesn't want to hurt him or upset him, and she still cares about him, but yeah, I guess for her it would make more sense if she was with someone who was older than her, more successful in life, or more, not managed, but more like set in life, and not this 22-year-old boy who still has braces. So it's just how she's worried about how people will view her and how her friends will view her. So she'll have to deal with that. So I'm curious on how all of that will play out. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've used the fact it's the last hot day we'll be having this week, and I'll be experiencing for a while to go to the beach again. And I didn't really feel much just because, really at all, just because A, I went there Monday, and B, I just wanted to, whenever I go to the beach, I just stay off my phone because it's beautiful. So, and I did, right before I filmed this clip, I did put my bangs down just because it's not what I look like with my bangs up on camera, and why not? But yeah, that's very long forehead, so yeah. Now insecurities. This, I guess, happen. We'll get used to having to record this thing and figure out what to do with my hair. Just because I've been thinking for a while to get rid of my bangs. Just because I have had them for half my life at this point. I grew them out a couple months before I turned 13. So yeah, we will see what I do with that if I do decide to get rid of them sooner rather than later. But yeah, so far it was quite hot today, quite nice, and we might begin some storms, which nice. And I did do quite a bit of reading of Intermezzo, putting me on page 378, and we are definitely seeing, I guess, the messiness of the brothers' lives and their relationships. I don't know if this is a trigger warning, but I should know that Peter, he is an addict. He does take drugs, and it seems like he does have a bit of a drinking problem, and at one point he mentions he has a dealer, so be aware of that if that might, I guess, cause some, if that might trigger you in some capacity. But we see Peter, how he's not sure of what to do with Naomi and Sylvia, like which one to choose, because he feels bad about leading both of them on, and Sylvia he told Sylvia that it was a monogamous thing, but it seems like he does, and while he's thinking, he can imagine a life with Sylvia, a life where they share a home and books, and where their friends will come and gather together, a life where they pass down joy to children they might have in some way. And this fantasy is what makes him choose Sylvia, and he goes back to his apartment and ends things with Naomi, and he does
feel guilty, and he promises he'll take care of her, find her a place to live for a while while she gets on her own feet. However, he can also imagine a life with Naomi, where they live on the continent and no one knows who they are and where they have a baby. So, but I mean, his mind's kind of made up. And with Ivan, he does take the dog to his father's house, which hasn't been cleared out since he died. And Ivan says the house is dusty, and it looks like it was that, like, the soul or the house itself died when the father died. Like that. Like, not imagery, but. And he did visit the previous weekend to bring some life back into it, to clean it a bit. And when he gets there, he sees Naomi is there, having been dropped off by Peter to live there. And she knows about his relationship with Margaret, and this upsets Ivan, as he thinks Peter had no right to tell her, and as well, he never told Ivan about Naomi. And he's also upset, as his father says he's a hypocrite, saying Margaret might have some mental issues because she is with Ivan, while his brother, who isn't much younger than Margaret, is dating someone Ivan's age. Naomi's 23, while Ivan is 22. So as well, Ivan knew nothing about Naomi, and Naomi did say that Peter isn't okay, which Ivan didn't want to think about, as it might mean Peter was putting his feelings towards himself onto Margaret. And after his conversation with Naomi, who tells him that Peter is a mess, he can't help but remember how they were growing up, how Peter used to look out for Ivan and defended him, how when their step-siblings used to play outside, Peter used to play chess with him, and how he was happy with Sylvia and all of that, and how all of that changed after the accident and Sylvia breaking up with Peter, how he became distinct from the family, and how Ivan could have been there for him, but wasn't. There was one night where Peter was crying and upset, and Ivan, instead of comforting him, being there for him, just walked away and went back to his room, because he didn't think at 16 it was fair for him to be given the pain that Peter was going through. So anyway, Ivan, in his teenage ways and in his beliefs, was selfish, thinking Peter should be handling his issues by himself, because Peter at the time was about 26 years old. So there is that. And we see with how Peter tells Sylvia he broke up with Naomi to be with her, and she's upset about this, thinking he was using Naomi to get back at her, and reminding Peter she can't give him what she used to give him. And they argue, and she tells him to leave, and he decides to go back to Naomi, and he's not expecting Ivan to be there. And they argue, and Peter says how no one was there for him, how their father didn't see him as his son, but as a protector. And during the argument, things do get physical, with Peter pushing Ivan, and is looking like he's about to punch him or something. And Peter stops, and he feels so guilty about this. So yeah, that's where I left off. I am curious to see the aftermath, but you can see that both of them, like, their relationship's so fucking complicated, and in a way, both in the wrong. Peter shouldn't have said what he said about Margaret, but he can't help but see Ivan as his little brother who he has to protect, someone who's vulnerable and naive, because it seems like the age difference is 10 years, so I mean, yeah, he can be help but be protective of his little brother. And Ivan, it seems like, is upset because Peter only sees him as this little brother, as this kid who is naive, who is an idiot, who is arrogant. Not arrogant, but ignorant. Well, he sees Peter as arrogant and full of himself and whatnot. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, their relationship. I don't know if the thing about their father, like, dying was really point of the synopsis. I mean, it is because if the father did, and I mean, I think in a way these issues would have come to light very much, and think how complex this relationship is, how they just don't know how to communicate at all. It's, I don't know, as someone who's an only child, and I know this isn't how it is with all siblings. It's just interesting to see this take on a sibling relationship, because most siblings might have a decent way of communicating. I think most couples trying to ensure a smaller age difference between siblings than what Peter and Ivan have, and they are a decade apart. They just don't understand one another. Like, I don't know if they've ever really sat down and communicated, but because it seems like all they've done is argue. So yeah, I'm just intrigued to see how this ends, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've just done some cleaning and whatnot, and I have been debating about my bangs. I don't know. I think because I just cut them because they were getting a bit too long, I might have to keep them and then see what happens when they grow out, which will not be fun because they always get to that length where they start just getting away. I'm always like pushing them away, and it kind of almost start giving me a headache, which, so you will see if I actually get rid of them or not. For now they stay, and as well, reading wise, today I did finish Intermezzo. I've now put the dust jacket back on, and I very much enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. One thing I not like seeing, but one thing that was interesting is with Peter, his mental health is not great. He is borderline suicidal, keeps thinking about, doing. I think if I say what I want to say, YouTube will just not demonetize me, but flag this video, but of himself. And we see the mental battle with himself, how he wants to live and he wants to be happy, but the desire to kill himself is getting stronger, as in his current situation he thinks he messed up all the relationship in his life that mattered to him, that Sevilla and Ivan both hate him, and he tried to cut Naomi out and as well, in aftermath of their fight, we see Ivan, he's thinking about the fight, how if their father had been there, it wouldn't have gone physical, how Peter and their father would always argue, and Peter did cross the line with what he said, because Ivan couldn't imagine criticizing their father at all, which it seems like it was like an unspoken wall between them. They both tried to protect him, as their father was quite gentle and would be frightened and upset by the anger of others, and Ivan continues telling himself he hates Peter, but he knows that's not true. He still needs his brother and he still loves him, and to him their father's death was this event. I think it's the leading up to the death, in their father's case, the anticipation, because he did have cancer, and then there was the aftermath with the funeral, and now it's the actual event is over. Their father is dead and is buried, and now Ivan, in a way, he feels relieved, as because the pain is over and the weight is over, and he no longer has to see his father suffer, and he can be as carefree as he wishes. However, we see he does have regrets, as there were things he and his father never got to discuss, and he is only 22, he's barely an adult. His father was always there for him, and now it's this new stage in life for him, and he will have to go through the rest of his adult years without his father, and he worries that he'll completely forget about him. There was this quote unmentioned on page. Let me find it because I did have it. Page 392. That's the person who's gone has no reality anymore except in thoughts, and once they're gone from thoughts, they actually are completely gone. If I don't think about him, literally, I'm ending his existence, and he's worried that if and when he will stop thinking about his father, it will completely erase him from existence, because even through physically his father's no longer there, he will always be there with him in his memories, and when those memories are no longer remembered, then his father will truly cease to exist, and he is worried about when those memories will fade. I think that's something that's people usually worried about in their grief. And so when we see how people in town, they know about Margaret and Avon and are talking about it, and they're worried about Ricky, who it still seems to have his issues. Margaret has mentioned that the last time she saw him, she was driving by his arm as amazing and he was vomiting and she didn't stop, so it seems like he's still an alcoholic. And her mother, who isn't the most accepting of Margaret for dating someone much younger than her, and yet it seems like Margaret has stopped caring of what people think, because her sister used to ask her for money, and then when she learned about Ricky's alcoholism, she stopped talking. I think people left Margaret alone to deal with the alcoholism on her own. I think no one was there for her, and she realizes, yeah, no one was ever really on my side, and she, in a way, she's always had to fend for herself. I think, these people don't care about me. Why the hell should I care about what they think of me? And it's as well, she has come to accept that, yes, there is a possibility that Ivan might meet someone his own age tomorrow or in 10 years' time, yet they have the now and should still stay in the present, as the future is, well, it does have its uncertainties, and that is something I do like. You don't know what will happen. And with Peter, he does get back to his own apartment, and he sees his two worlds collide, with Sylvia and Naomi being in the same place, as they both were worried about him, and they just didn't know where he was, as his phone was dead and they weren't able to contact him. And he and Sylvia make up, and she kind of gives him this offer that it's almost like polyamory, but it just seems like he'll be a man with two girlfriends. Like, they're both drawn to him, he's drawn to both of them. I don't know. And I have the best way to describe it is one. Yeah, and for him, he is someone that's always worried about appearances, and he's still worried about what people will think, because what it will be with him and Naomi and Sylvia is something that is unconventional, it seems. And I mean, even if it is, like, he becomes content with it, he's happy. And we see the, not reunion, but okay, Ivan's playing this tournament, and their mother, which for some reason Peter never says mother, she's always Christine, so not sure if it's more of like a saying of their relationship, or Peter thinks they're on even levels. But she sends him an article about the tournament, and he goes, and he doesn't even go inside, as he's worried he'll distract Ivan from playing, and Margaret shows up, and she also doesn't want to go in, and the two kind of get talking, and it seems like they're getting along quite well. We didn't get off. Like, they both were like, yeah, I kind of said some things about you, I'm sorry, and yeah, it's okay. So, not okay, but month, and we see the brothers actually talk and start to make amends and start to try and continue on after losing their father. And there's a line here how it's like nothing gets fixed between them, but it's more the opportunity to fix their issues is there. It's a start at least, and I do like that ending because these are brothers who've kind of had their issues for most of their lives because of Peter trying to protect his little brother and Ivan kind of being his teenage of his ideas and whatnot. They've never really seemed to see eye to eye, and still there's love between them, and I don't know, they just want trying to make things right and really trying to understand one another and properly communicate for the first time in their life. So yeah, overall I did like it and I gave it 4 stars. And I think tomorrow I don't think I'll be doing any more reading today, but you shall see. But I'm planning to start Mary by Nat Cassidy. And this is about Mary, who is a quiet, middle-aged woman doing her best to blend into the background. Unremarkable, invisible, unknown even to herself. But lately things have been changing inside Mary. Along with the hot flashes and body aches, she can't look in the mirror without passing out. And the voices in her head have been urging her to do unspeakable things. Fired from her job in New York, she moves back to her hometown, hoping to reconnect with her past and inner self. Instead, visions of terrifying mutated specters overwhelm her with increasingly regularity, and she begins auto-writing strange thoughts and phrases. Mary discovers that these experiences are echoes of an infamous serial killer. Then the killings begin again. Mary's definitely going to find herself. So yeah, I think it is a woman going through menopause or something, and yeah, I'm just very much intrigued to see that, which I have to say, these 2 books, very much of a contrast to one another. One's a literary fiction and one's I think more for horror, but still, I'm intrigued to see how that goes. And yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you on it. So it's the next day, and I did have to go out today. I just went some errands and whatnot, did some grocery shopping, and as well take some stuff to the junkyard in my town, just to properly dispose of stuff. And yeah, I did go for a walk, which I didn't really film this because I wasn't really in the mood to film. I don't know, I get in the mood where I'm like, I want to film a lot, I want to take, but then there's like, I just want to take pictures and enjoy this walk. So yeah, today was that day where I just wanted to enjoy my walk, but yeah. And I did do some reading. I started Mary by Nat Cassidy, which I told you about yesterday, and I believe I also read the synopsis of this, and so far I'm on part 3, page 82, and I am definitely liking the writing style in this one. We start the novel in 1969 as the sheriff is staring at a body in a bathtub, and we get a sense that he is someone who has seen a lot on a job, who's been doing this job for a very long time, and he's almost immune to a lot of things. He's used to it. And we learn that the body isn't the only body in the mansion. It's actually the 7th. And 6 of them were women who were mutated so heavily that they couldn't be identified. And the 7th is the town's mayor, who was easily identified, despite half his head missing. So yeah, turns out these murders are a set of murders or another spree of murders that has occurred, and that they're related to a serial killer that Brannigan, I don't know how to say his name, has been helping this town to track down for years, that women are being killed, or being mutated, and they are just not being able to be identified. And Brannigan, he's still looking at the scene, making commentary about the fact there are ants there, when a deputy comes to tell that they found a guy, and they go to chase him, and he's in the walls, and they're trying to get him out. And Brannigan, he sits down on the stairs because he's, older and out of shape. Not out of shape, but his body has to work harder to keep up, and his chest is hurting him, and he is killed alongside the killer. And on the same night that this occurs, the same night that the killer dies, a woman goes into labor early and gives birth to her daughter. And then we jump to 1975 to this little girl being found by someone who works in the museum. She was left behind while her school was on a field trip, left in a museum overnight, and she was hungry and whatnot, and she ate ants and said something that unnerved the worker of the museum. So a lot of really just creepy scenes, and all of it's just like, I do feel drawn to it. As I said, like in everything, and I guess enjoying it. And then we jump to 2019 and meet Mary, who is at this free clinic at a health fair. She can't afford seeing the regular doctor, as she doesn't have health insurance, and she is explaining symptoms to the doctor, who has wiped her off as like having pre-menopause because of her age. Because she's a woman approaching 50, so yeah, oh god. And he tries to put her in a box and writes off her symptoms as textbook, like he actually uses that term, it's textbook case. And she goes home and runs to her loved ones, which I'm assuming are dolls, porcelain dolls, or some sort of figurines, which, yeah. And Mary, she works in the basement of this bookstore and has been for years. However, the bookstore is slowly transforming itself from less of a bookstore to something that's more modern, I guess, something that would be more trendy to a younger customer. Like they're selling journals and vinyls and CD stuff that younger people like. That the manager of the bookstore even says that bookstores are slowly going into extinction, yeah, that's right. Probably because of the rise of Amazon, but that's another topic that and Mary, she works there, and she is often forgotten about, and she comes upstairs because the journal was left in her box of books, and the manager, he fires her because her services are, no longer needed, they are drifting away from being a bookstore, really. And here's how forgotten she is. He was supposed to fire her 2 weeks ago, and he's like, oh crap, I meant to do this 2 weeks ago, so that was funny. And when she gets home, she gets a phone call from her aunt, who she hasn't spoken to in decades. Mary now lives in New York, and she grew up in Arizona, and when she was about in her early adult years, she left. And her aunt tells her that she's dying, and her own daughter, Mary's cousin Brenda, happened to be on vacation, and she needs Mary. And Mary, she learns her aunt will go up Double Down Mountain, and decides to go, taking with her her precious belongings. Wow, why can I not speak? AKA her dolls, or her loved ones, really. And on the plane, she does have this dream that's quite recurring, and that she's gotten further in than previously. And she gets to her aunt's house, who she doesn't have a great relationship with, as the woman is quite mean, and Mary realizes she has forgotten stuff about, including about the mansion where the murders take place, which has been revamped to be many things for the town, a hospital included. And she can see the mansion from her aunt's house, and I'm bringing up the thing about her forgetting stuff because her aunt brings up her mentions about her setting a fire, which I took as a jab at the fact her parents died in a house fire, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense because we learned that night Mary was in that museum was the night a fire took place, so I don't know, and I don't know, it's like, could it be her memories are playing tricks on her? I just don't understand, so yeah, I'm curious to see where that plays out, if she did have something to do with her parents' death. And we see her aunt's house is an utter mess, like crops everywhere. It's like you need an exorcism just to deal with it. And the bathroom, oof. Like, oh, I can imagine this horror of that mess alone. And it turns out the only clean room is Brenda's room. And Mary keeps promising she'll be good and whatnot, and after she's had a life of being like just seen as a weird and people thinking there's something wrong with her, she just wants to be good. And when she's in a shower, she sees a body in a bathtub, which the side, it seems, is similar to what Brannigan saw, and she faints and sees a doctor who also wipes her off as a textbook case and won't really listen to her when she's trying to describe her symptoms. And yeah, a nurse does offer her a job, and Mary's like, oh no, it's only temporary, I'm sure Brenda will be back soon. And he's like, honey, Brenda skipped town. She has a girlfriend, and the aunt, well, was not the most accepting, it seems. So yeah, and I don't know, there's something, at times I always forget that Mary's a 50-year-old woman. Like, if her age wasn't stated on numerous occasions, I would think she was a young girl, because she keeps using the phrase, oh, I just want to be a good girl, and both G's are capitalized, and it's like, I don't know, she just is so insecure and self-conscious of her actions after this being bullied, and it seems like no one really was on her side. Like, oh, she has are her loved ones, which that's another reason I think, I don't know, I forget that she's a woman in her 50s, because, I mean, people have their recollections, don't get me wrong, but she accidentally drops one of them, like, a porcelain name. Oh gosh, it was something with a C, and the doll, or the loved one, breaks, and she feels like she's crying. It's sad when something you care for breaks, but I don't know, it's just, the feeling I get from Mary isn't a grown woman in her 50s person, it's just someone who's stuck in her childhood, stuck in her teenage years, and also someone who desperately wants to get away from her teenage years and forget about them. And she has done a good job forgetting, but she one day remembers this bully who once took her clothes when she had to use the showers at the school. And Mary's like, why did I forget it? It's like, because you moved on. Like, the things people do to you in school, they don't define you. Maybe at the moment they do, but not for the rest of your life. And it's just, I don't know, this is the vibe I get from Mary, is this, that. But I am curious to see, like, because she keeps seeing the body in the exact same way that Sheriff Brannigan saw it, and the murder victim, and I'm curious on how that's connected. I'm curious about the dreams, if we will get further and further in them, because that dream on the plane, it was the furthest she had gotten in months. So I'm curious that suddenly she's now in the place where everything started and ended. Like the murderer ended, but she started. She was born. If that will somehow exaggerate the dreams and continue on with the story that her mind is playing out, I'm very much curious about that. But yeah, and I think I mentioned at the start of this vlog I was gonna end it earlier than I do, and I will, just because of stuff that you will learn about quite soon. I think nothing about it. Yeah. But yeah, that's all for now. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post